Mediation in family court can really be a blessing, as long as you take your time and you're prepared and you don't rush. Family court is very high intense, very stressful. Going before a judge, getting prepared to be in front of court, doing all those things is very stressful, very emotional, can really wear on you. And not that mediation isn't important or stressful, but it's less stressful because you're not going before a judge, you're not having someone else make a decision on your behalf. Mediation gives you a little bit more control because you get to decide more of the outcome because you don't have to agree on anything in mediation. The biggest important to mediation is that you make sure that you do binding mediation. Binding mediation means what you guys agree on, what she and you and everyone agrees to and signs off on that day is binding. You can't go back, she can't go back 6 months and say, oh, I didn't agree to that. That's a very important distinction. Non-binding mediation is basically a waste of time because she can agree to anything and then change it later. You must go into mediation though prepared. Don't just walk in there thinking, oh, I'm going to hear what she has to say and then I'm going to agree to it or not. Mediation is a negotiation. It's one giant negotiation. So use that to your advantage on things that you're not emotionally attached to, that you think maybe she is, or that you're willing to give up. Personally, I'm not going to fight over a couch or a washer and dryer, but I'm not going to necessarily give that up without getting something back in return as well. Most of the time, household stuff are materialistic and they're not worth fighting over, so you can replace those things pretty easily, and most guys aren't attached to a couch or a piece of furniture. Now, it's not to say if something wasn't an heirloom or from a family member that you want to keep. There's nothing wrong with that, but be realistic about some stuff that you really don't care about or that's easy to replace. Those things you can give up and you can get something in return. Everything is a checkoff, so have a list of stuff that you're prepared to give up, that you're not willing to fight for, that you don't care about fighting for. Give a realistic dollar amount to that, and then make sure you get something offset in return. Another thing that's really important is you want to make sure that she's paying for her half of mediation. Don't get stuck paying for mediation all on your own. Mediators typically are in the $500-ish an hour range. Could be more, could be less, but typically that's where they set at. So you want her to have to be splitting half that. General mediation is about 2 hours. That's a good one-time binding mediation. So that's a good rule of thumb to go with. So you don't want to sit there and get tied up paying, $1,000 for mediation and she's not out anything of her own pocket. She'll be less incentivized to negotiate. I also recommend that you have your attorney present in mediation. I know a lot of people like to go at it on their own, and you can definitely do that, but you're already paying the money to your attorney and you're going to have to rehash some of the things, and they're already going to be an expense that your attorney is going to have to be involved in mediation. So the little bit extra to have them there for a couple hours or at least half of it is going to save you some time in the long run. So make sure you're well prepared with all the stuff that you're going to be giving up, the negotiations that you have planned. Everything is lined out and documented. You're probably not going to get into a whole lot of custody stuff, but you might. And have your non-negotiables, like things that you are not going to give up, you are not willing to move on. Remember, they don't have to make you do this. You don't have to sign off on something in mediation that you don't want. It's a negotiation, so don't give up something without getting something. So when it comes to time with the kids, even if that's brought up, you're not going to just be like, oh, okay, yeah, have whatever you want. Mediation definitely for sure can help slow things down and help you think clearly and prepare for it in advance. And the other thing in mediation that I would make sure, and most of the time they've gone to doing now, is that you're both not in the same room. So you're in a separate room, your ex is in a separate room, her attorney's in there with her, your attorney's in there with you. If you do it on Zoom, obviously you can have separate rooms. You're not in the same room as each other, and that helps take some of the emotion and reaction out of it. It's kind of like the salesman's used car salesman. It's like, oh, I got to go talk to my boss about that, right? So you get that separation where okay, the mediator goes back and talks to her, right? The mediator's job is to find common ground or ground that you can agree on. So he'll come in or she'll come in and talk to you, get a couple things, go back to the other side, and their job is to, again, find that agreement and that common ground. So they can be like, well, they're not going to do that. They're willing to do that. They're going to know your side. They're going to know what you're not willing to give up. And so they're the mediator, the one that's going back and forth in between. And that takes a lot of stress and emotion off to you because you're dealing with basically somebody you don't know sitting with your attorney. You don't have any emotions in it. you can talk to them a little bit frank, like, hey, this is ridiculous, or this is crazy, or I'm not going to do that, or those type of things, because they're not the judge. They don't make a final decision. They don't get to overrule your wants. Their job is to get both sides to agree. So it's very important that when you go into mediation, again, you go in there with the idea that it is a negotiation. The good thing about it is it takes the control out of the judge's hand. If you do binding mediation, then there's things you've already agreed on. It's already done. And that's one less thing that has to go before a judge and a judge has to agree upon. Anytime you can keep decisions out of a judge's hand, I think that's better off for your case. Follow me. I help men survive the chaos that's family court, and better yet, build back better after.